Data governance and risk, that is your next area. First of all, we will have a little overview. Every organization has unique risks. Every organization faces some risk, but those organizations that have employed information systems, IS and IT, they will also face some unique risk related to the information system they might have deployed. So for such organizations that have extensive use of information systems, IT technology, they should have some carefully crafted policies, some procedures, some access controls, logical controls, physical controls, because information system, your IT infrastructure is driving your business forward. It's a very sensitive domain of the business, so you have to have proper policies, proper procedures for your information system and IT. It is also called IT security plan or the cyber security plan. Businesses should have it. Okay, system availability. System availability means if you have information system deployed, your information system should be available when we need it. Means if there are interruptions of electricity, we should have installed some generator. If there is a risk of environmental hazard like flood, fire, there must be some safeguards against such environmental hazards. Then again, we should have some security procedures in place to avoid unauthorized access into our systems, right? And at the same time, our different, let's say our business is composed of 5 or 6 locations, and these segments and divisions, they keep on communicating with each other. So your segments, your devices, your networks, they must always be in communication when they need to communicate with each other. So system availability means our system should be available when we need it. We need it now, it should be available now. We need it in the future, it should be available in the future. So we have to have it when we need it. That is system availability. So there should be some safeguards against environmental hazards, some arrangements for power interruptions, or any intrusions against our information systems. Next, we have, this is an important point from accounting point of view. Most of you are in accounting organization, in organizations working in accounting departments. And I'm sure you would have seen lots of papers moving, going around you, in front of you, up, down, right, left, papers and papers. Purchase orders, requisitions, invoices, receipts, so much, payment vouchers, so many things, good receiving notes. So in paper-based environment, there is audit trail. You know, the document A moved from this position, from this person to this, from this to this, because all those initials, all those notes given on the face of the papers would tell you that this document has moved around in different areas of the organization, right? That is true in the paper-based environment. But when you have IT-based systems, this is called audit trail. Trail means you can follow through that this document went from position X to Y, or manager X to Y, then from Y to Z, Z to M. This is called audit trail. You can track, trace how this document moved. Unfortunately, in computer-based systems, this audit trail is not in the physical form. There is, yes, there is an audit trail. Like, for example, if a purchase order has been approved within the system, in our information-based systems, IT systems, so you would know through trails, audit trails, computer-generated trails, that at what date the purchase order was raised, at what terminal was it raised, who approved it, at what time he approved it. So even it is there, but it is in the digital form. But the point you need to learn is that in paper-based environments, we have the audit trail, we have the track of how the documents move in the organization. But in the computer-based system, the trail tends to be little hidden. It's in the computer system. Of course, it can be identified, it can be traced, but it's not as visible, as apparent as we have in the paper-based environment. So this is something you need to know. Then we have fourth point in information systems, data governance and risk, decreased human involvement. Since most of your work would be done by computer, your transaction entry, processing, posting into different ledger accounts. Now, there is very little human intervention, which means so from one aspect, decreased human intervention, decreased human involvement, it is good because computer will be taking care of all the processes. There will be less human intervention. Things will be more in control. But at the same time, it is risk because there are some potential errors that can stay. Computers doesn't know. Computers, they don't know between right and wrong. It has to be told through coding what is right and what is wrong. So decreased human involvement, decreased human intervention could be good, speedier processing, quick results, but it also poses a risk that there might be some errors that might go undetected because human experience is not something that you can replace by IT system, but still this assertion is changing rapidly as we embrace machine learning, artificial intelligence. You will learn it's an exciting domain of computer sciences, quite an exciting domain. We'll discuss in our next subunit regarding machine learning, artificial intelligence, blockchain, smart contracts. So many things are coming. Just stay connected. Okay, next. Uniform processing of transactions means computer needs to be told that when A plus B is added, the result is C. Or when X is multiplied with Y, the result is Z. Right? Once it is told, it can process millions and millions of such complex transactions apparently in almost errorless way. Clerical errors are eliminated. Maybe humans can make mistake in addition, in multiplication, or in doing computations, but computers, they do not make mistakes. If your code is fine, if your computer coding is good, code is error-free, it has no bugs, then computer will process tons of transactions without any error. So clerical errors are eliminated. But if your program contains bugs, if there are programming errors, clearly there will be mistakes in processing. Next, the sixth point, unauthorized access. Computer-based systems may be exposed to, because physically when you're running your organizations on paper-based environment, there is clear boundary, papers can be seen moving around. So there is little risk from some external involvement, external access to your documents. But when the information, the data is placed on computer systems, then there are more, absolutely, there are more chances of system crash, correct? So there's a risk when this information is contained in in IT systems, data is placed on IT servers. There is a risk that somebody from outside, some external agent, some external player might gain access to your servers and your confidential information might be taken away, might be hacked. So this is again a risk of information system. Then data vulnerability. If your computer facilities are destroyed, Vikas, they can be replaced. Hardware can be replaced. You can purchase new computers, but the data that is unique to you, your customers' details, your suppliers' details, your employees' details, all the information on is unique to your business. It is destroyed, then you are gone. So that is why it is crucial for any organization to have the data duplicated at some secure locations in case if there is some disaster. So we will have some alternative processing facility where we can use our duplicated data and run our operations. So this is an important point. Your data is vulnerable. You have to secure the data and you have to store it at multiple locations in order to protect data from destruction. If it's destroyed in one location, you have the alternative facility available and the duplicated data can be then used to run the operations. Then reduce segregation of duties. We know segregation of duties is a fundamental part of any good business organization. It's a part of good governance. Custody, authorization, record keeping, and reconciliation must be segregated. For example, if A holds cash, he has the custody. Then another person, B, should give authorization for cash transaction. Cash transactions must be recorded by person X and reconciliation must be made by person Y, which means custody of an asset must be with a separate person. Authorization related to that asset must be with a separate person. Record keeping of that asset must be with a separate person. And reconciliation of records and the custody must be made by a totally separate person. This is called segregation of duties. So this is possible in the real world. We can segregate individuals. What about IT system? Sometimes a single person on a computer system, he has cash with him. He is the one who authorized to spend it. He is the one who is also having record keeping to the information system. And maybe he's not the one reconciling. So sometimes the segregation function is compromised in IT systems. In information system, we cannot clearly we cannot put boundaries this way, the way we can put in the physical world. Such distinction will be hard to make. So the same person who might be receiving cash, he might be preparing deposit slip, he might be making journal entries in a computer system. For this information system, there must be some alternative controls to make sure that a person having this much authority of custody and reconciliation cannot misappropriate cash. I gave you example, like for example, in large stores, large departmental stores, the person who is at the cash register, he has cash. He is the one who has the custody of cash. He is the one who has the record keeping of cash. Custody of cash and record keeping of cash, because when you receive cash in the cash register, the inventory records are updated. So these two functions are done simultaneously. So in order to ensure that the person holding cash and recording it in the cash register through computer, he does not misappropriate the cash. There is a camera right in front, ahead of this person, and he's also given some cash limit. Like for example, he cannot conduct any transaction when his cash balance exceeds $10,000. This is the limit. His supervisor will come, he will take the cash away, and then he can start generating entries for the customers who buy goods from that store, right? So there would be reduction in segregation of duties, but still you need to make some complementary controls, some compensating controls to make sure that things remain within control. Next, reduce individual authorization of transaction. That is also one of the features of IT system. Your information system can execute transactions on its own sometimes. For example, we have set a reorder point that whenever inventory falls below 20,000 units, the system will automatically raise a purchase order and send it via email to the vendor or to the supplier. See, this has been done automatically. There is no human intervention. Now, since the system has generated the purchase order itself, ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning System, they can generate purchase order themselves without human intervention. This is sometimes necessary. It speeds up our working, but sometimes human oversight is essential. Sometimes human involvement is essential. So this is, at the same time, it is good because it will speed up your operations, but sometimes it will also pose as a risk, because in some special custom purchase orders, maybe there is some supervisory approval required, maybe there is some oversight required. So in such situations, independent verification of transaction is very important as a compensating control. Then the 10th point, your information systems, your IT infrastructure might be exposed to some threats called malicious software. It could be a virus, it could be a worm, it could be a logic bomb, Trojan horse. There are many risks. Those who haven't studied section E, they will. When we will start our cycle, maybe in a couple of weeks, we will go back to section A, B, C, D, E, and in E, you will discuss all these different types of threats, viruses, worms, logic bombs, Trojan horses, what they are, what they can do, we'll discuss it there. So these are the risks also. Malicious software, such risks, they need to be managed as well. Now, this is what the overview is all about. Now let us discuss something more technical. COBIT 5. This document was issued in 1995 by an entity called ISACA. That is Information Systems Audit and Control Association. I hope most of you would have heard about the certification CISA, Certified Information System Auditor. This certification is granted by this entity, ISACA. So they gave a standard COBIT 5. COBIT 5 stands for Control Objectives for Information and Related Technology. COBIT stands for Control Objectives for Information and Related Technology. This document provides you a governance framework, an idea, a guideline that will help you address your information technology risk. This is not binding by law. It doesn't have the force of law. It is just for your guidance. Just will guide you how you should structure your information system, how you should govern, what should be the governance framework of your information system. Control Objective for Information and Related Technology. This model was given in 1995. We will just discuss it briefly. It was replaced by a new version in 2019 that is called COBIT 2019. So we will discuss it later. Let us briefly go through COBIT 5, which is an older version. Let us discuss some few points. So, a framework for IT governance and management. It is best known for information technology. Of course, that is its main objective, main focus. It said that information should meet these criteria. Good information should meet these 6 criteria. Information must be generated in an effective way, means information should be made available timely when I need it. Information must be correct, and information must be consistent with the organizational format, and it must be relevant to the business process. That is one of the criteria of information. Information must be effective. Information must be efficient, means it must be collected using little resources, cost efficient. That is most productive use of your resources. You don't have to spend lots of money to generate information. Information is produced by using little money, cost efficiently. Third is confidentiality. Your information must be confidential, means you need to protect your sensitive information. No one who is not authorized should have access to your confidential information. Then integrity. Integrity means your information must be accurate, because you have to take decisions based upon this information, so it must be accurate and complete. Fifth, availability. Your information must be available when required. You require it now, it must be available now. You require it in the future, it must be available in the future. So information must be available when you need it. And finally, compliance. It must comply with relevant laws. It must comply with relevant laws, means related to privacy laws. It must comply with relevant regulations. It must comply with your own internal policies, your own internal procedures. And there is one more, 7th point, reliability. The information generated by your system must be reliable for decision-making purpose. It must be useful so that we can use it in our decision-making in our operations. So these were the 7 criteria of information given by COBIT 5. It's an older model issued in 1995. It's continuing. Then we'll go to COBIT 2019. Then this model, COBIT 5, it gave you data governance focus areas. Data governance should focus on what areas of your information system? First, strategic alignment. See, your business might have some objectives. Business can have many objectives: profit, growth, survival, providing a public service, sales maximization, market share maximization, and so on and so forth. Your business might have many objectives, many plans and strategies to achieve those objectives. So the point is, if this is the point where your business is headed, that's the objective you want to achieve, your IT must also enable you to move in the same direction. So the point is, there is a linkage between your business plan and your IT plan. They must be geared towards the same goal, towards the same objective. IT is an enabler. I'm sure you would have realized the power of IT now, and you will realize in the coming years, in the next 10 to 15 years, there is going to be again a revolution as we know it in information technology. Smart contracts, blockchain technology, artificial intelligence, machine learning, things are changing at a very fast pace. We will discuss these things briefly in our coming classes. Quite fascinating things, I must say. So Strategic alignment means your business plan and your IT plans, they must be integrated. They must be geared towards the same objective. Then, value delivery. When you bring in IT information system, Waqas says that past 10 years data can be corrupt when it is needed. Why does it go corrupt? You have to store it somewhere secure. You have to regularly maintain it if you need it. So why does it go corrupt? This is the job of the information department, to make sure that the data that is stored offsite must be usable when we want to use it. Why did it go corrupt? This shouldn't be. This is no justification. Yes, data must be archived and maintained for future use. Value delivery. When you install your IT infrastructure, we were expecting some benefits. We were expecting some profitable use of these facilities, some benefit for the organization. So value delivery means IT delivers the profit, the promised benefit, because when we invest a lot of money on IT infrastructure, so as we can increase our efficiency, we can increase our effectiveness, we can reduce our cost, we can become more competitive. So such promised benefits must be delivered. IT must deliver the promised benefits, cost reduction or increase in efficiency, whatever the objective was, it must deliver the promised benefit. Then the resource management. See, I said IT infrastructure might require tons of money. ERP implementation, its acquisition, its training could be quite a sizable amount of money might be required. So we need to ensure that we make optimal investment and we are able to manage the IT resources most efficiently, right? Because our resources are limited. Everyone is facing the basic fundamental economic problem. Resources are limited and the choices and the wants are unlimited. So we can meet some of the choices, some of the wants, but not all. Hence, we have to make optimal use of our investment in IT. That's what you call the resource management. Just like the risk in every, what are risks? Risks are unforeseen events that might prevent an organization from achieving its objectives. So IT risks, of course, information system, IT system, they also face risk. So we need to have identify what are the risks faced, how to manage those risks. So there must be a continuous risk management process in place. Risk management means identifying the risks and making sure the risks are contained within the cost benefit parameter. Every risk you manage will have some costs. It will have some benefits if we can manage that risk. So cost benefit must be assessed in order to establish some controls to manage the risk within the allowed parameter. Then performance measurement. Performance measurement means we invested a lot of money. Let's say we invested $10 million in our information systems. So we were expecting some benefits, some promised benefit. Was this benefit delivered? If it was, then to what extent? What was the cost we expected? What is the new cost? Was there any cost reduction? Was there any operational efficiency? Have we been able to make good use of the IT infrastructure that we have developed? So this is the performance measurement. All these were the aspects of COBIT 5. Now it has been replaced by COBIT 2019, the new version. It is more or less the same, but since technology is changing at a very rapid pace, so things have changed a lot over the period. So we have a new version of COBIT 2019. I think we're still on the same. I think this part has been removed from your book. Please keep within the boundary of your textbook and the questions in the software. You don't need to go beyond that. So this is something that has been removed in the new version of your book. My previous recording has this in much more detail. Nonetheless, there is no harm in doing it, no problem. There are 5 key principles of COBIT 5, and these principles are not there in your new 2021 book. Please don't search them there, you won't find them. So what these principles are all about: your IT governance, your IT system should meet the stakeholder needs. There are different people who are connected to your organization: customers, suppliers, bankers, employees, managers, shareholders, so on and so forth. They need something from the organization. They are connected to the organization because they have some interest in it. So your system should be able to meet their needs. IT is not just a single function. IT is now an activity that pervades and affects every aspect of your organization: procurement, marketing, finance, and your human resources, your production facilities, your supply chain. IT has influenced everything. So your IT covers not just just a single function or single department. It is from end to end, completely holistically affects every part of your organization. Right? So that's why, since it's affecting the organization from every aspect, so we need to have a single integrated framework. Yes, it's everywhere. Even right now, we are using massively the IT infrastructure to deliver our class. Zoom. Enabling a holistic approach. What is a holistic approach? Holistic approach means if I have A, B, C, and D, let's say these are the components of a machine, how they work together in harmony to produce a certain output. How do they work together? How they connect together? How these individual components work jointly together? This is called having a holistic approach, rather than just focusing on A alone or B alone, seeing things how they work. Like a CEO, he sees things holistically, how marketing, finance, logistics, purchasing, IT, human resource, how they work together so that we can achieve our organizational objective. So holistic approach means seeing things at a bird's eye view and seeing how different functions, departments interact, coordinate with each other, so that the organization can achieve its objectives, can achieve its objectives. Then separating governance from management. This is a very important distinction. You must learn what this distinction is. Governance and management. Governance involves strategic direction. Governance involves deciding in what direction do we want to go, and then keeping an eye, watching. Management is actually responsible to take the organization in the chosen direction, and governance will ensure that the management is doing what it is supposed to do. Please remember, governance and management, they are different. Governance and management, they are absolutely, you're right. Governance and management, they must be segregated. Governance means just seeing, just watching over, setting direction, and then how these goals are achieved, this is done by the management. So there must be segregation between governance and management. So these are the 5 principles, no longer available in the latest version of your book. Nonetheless, we've done it. Now we have COBIT 2019. COBIT 2019 says that governance system and the governance framework must be segregated. I will explain these ideas first, one by one. First, governance system. Governance system has 6 principles. Let us discuss these principles one by one. Stakeholders' value means your information system should be able to generate value, generate benefit. When we say value, that means benefit. COVID-19. It's exactly. COVID-19 or COVID-19, somewhat similar sounding. Stakeholders' value. Every stakeholder, everyone who is connected to the stakeholders are those individuals or entities that are related with the organization some way. They are affected by what a business does. Stakeholder value means our stakeholders are expecting some benefits. So IT system, governance system should provide reasonable assurance that these stakeholders will receive benefits. Holistic approach. Holistic approach means creating synergies. Synergies mean 1 + 1 = 5, or 1 + 1 = whatever you want to make, not just 2 only. When things work together, they become more efficient, more effective. This is called holistic approach. Identifying interconnectedness in the system, creating synergies. Then, dynamism. Things change. Your IT system should be flexible enough to accommodate change. System should be dynamic when dealing with a change. Then, distinction from management. This is what we have just discussed. We have discussed governance is different. Management tasks are different. Governance involves setting a strategic direction and oversight, and management means actually taking actions to achieve the goals. So governance and management must be segregated. And the last point is customization. Customization means your information system should be able to accommodate changes, something similar to dynamism, and they should be tailored to meet the organizational needs. There's not a single system that is applicable for every organization. There is some customization required, like ERP is customized to every organization, like Oracle, Financials, or SAP. It is customized based upon your unique requirements. So there must be an element of customization so that we can make use of the system according to our needs. And then finally, end-to-end coverage. IT is not just a single function, or it's not a single department. Its impact is pervasive. It affects every department, every function in an organization. You can see IT is affecting every part of your organization. And then finally, the second leg of COVID 2019 is governance framework. Governance system, basically, it's a set of rules, practices, processes that will help an organization to achieve its objectives. How we regulate an entity. How do we structure it so that the organization goals are achieved? It's a conceptual model, must be open and flexible so that we can accommodate changes, and it must be aligned with the standards, with the business plan or the strategic plan that we use for our organization as a long-term plan. So this is briefly, COVID 2019 is given briefly, just hardly half page in your book. So just keep it to that point, do not overdo, not needed. Next, we have the data lifecycle. This is something discussed a little while ago by Vikas. Data lifecycle. Data lifecycle consists of different phases that data goes through in its life. There are 7 phases. Let us discuss these phases one by one. The first phase is data capture. Your information system will capture the data and bring it in your processing domain. Data capture can be of 3 types. Let us discuss it here. If the data is obtained from some external source outside the organization, this is called utilizing data. Utilizing already previously gathered data by someone else. It's called utilizing data that was obtained by someone else outside the organization. Second, if such data doesn't exist, we may have to capture data ourselves. This is called data entry. Data entry means adding new data values created within the organization. And the third one is called the signal reception. Little complex term apparently, but it will make sense. I will then explain. Signal reception means that some data that was already stored within the organization. Please remember, utilizing data means using data that was created externally outside the organization. And when the data is already available within the organization and making use of this data, which was already available internally, this is called signal reception. And when you want to create data from the beginning, from zero, this is called the data entry, creating new data values. This is the first phase. Now you have gathered the data, you have inputted in the system. Next phase is called the data maintenance. Data maintenance means processing the data through our computer system, but yet we are unable to drive any conclusion. We can't draw any conclusion. We cannot derive any value from it. So data maintenance means just processing the data, and we have not yet drawn any benefit from the processed data. That's called data maintenance. Next step is where we will make some use of it. Next is data synthesis and analytics. Once the data is processed, then we will use this processed data to create some models, just like those who have read part 1, where we have some guys who have passed part 1. We will use the data to run our financial modeling, investment decisions, our actuarial modeling or risk modeling. So using data to draw some conclusions, to analyze it, to synthesize it so that some use could be made. This is called data synthesis and data analytics. Once it is done, the next stage is to make some decision on it. That is called the data usage. Once the data has been processed, analyzed, synthesized for the use, next step is data usage. Means it's the use of data for the organization so that we can run and manage ourselves. Done? Next step is the data publication. Data publication involves the distribution of data outside the organization. Like, for example, you are in the account receivable department, and when the AR cycle is run every month, we update our customer files, and now sending the customer statements to their given addresses or dispatching them by email or sending by post. This is called data publication. So data publication means sending of data to the location outside, like monthly statements to the customer. Then the point will come when the data has served its purpose. It has come to its end time in life. It's the end of its lifetime. So at this point, we have to store it somewhere, store at an offsite location. This is called data archival. So we just put it at a location which is safe and secure. We do not regularly maintain it. It is just stored there. Maybe we might need it in the future for some reference or maybe for some investigation. So Vikas, data archival, when it was stored, after 10 years, you learned it got corrupted. Who is responsible? Vikas, you are responsible. You are the one who was heading the IT department. You are the one to ensure the data is archived in the safe location. It doesn't get corrupted. It needs not to be regularly maintained, but still you need to make sure that we might need it in the future. So it should be good in use, right? So data archival involves storing the data in some secure location, and we might need it in the future. Maybe after 100 years, Vikas, let's say if you live that long, you realize that this data is too old. Now it needs to be deleted from that location. It needs to be dumped somewhere else, or it must be destroyed, whether it is the paper-based or it's the IT-based system. It needs to be get rid of. This is called data purging, right? Data purging means removing the data from the enterprise. This could be very risky. Disposing of all the copies of data, deleting it from your servers, offsite, on-site. The problem is, when do we need to purge the data? 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? Or should we never purge the data? Depends upon the jurisdiction you are working, depends upon the laws of the place of the jurisdiction where you are operating, government tax laws, regulatory laws of SECP, depends upon the regulator also. So these are the 7 stages through which the data moves. Next is the record retention policy. Every organization, how much data can be data archival? Well, it depends upon, I told you, it is highly contextual. Some organizations might keep data for 10 to 15 years. Like in the US, tax laws require data to be kept up to 7 years. But if there is an investigation, if there is fraud suspected, then there is no such limit. So basically, you can't put a limit to it. It's very much variable, depends upon the jurisdiction, the laws of regulation there. Well, again, answer, the hard disk has a life. Hard disk, once you store the data and you just put it somewhere at a secure location, still, it might develop some mechanical fault, right? The hard disk had stopped moving after some years. So it doesn't have indefinite life. So you need to have some storage that is non-volatile, or you can say that the storage that is more shelf life. So something more than hard drive. So record retention policy is essential for every organization. A company should have a written formal record retention policy, and you need to balance. You can't keep data for too long or not long enough. This is a very interesting statement. Not too long and not long enough means you just can't keep the data for 50 years and you can't just destroy the data in 5 years. So it should neither be too long nor too short. It should be somewhere between too long and not too long, right? So again, the point is that even in the US, the tax law says that you need to keep your data for 7 years. But even if the fraud is suspected, then there is no minimum. Maybe you might be required to produce some documents 25 years old, right? So that's the important point. So let's do a few questions to assess how well we have understood the concept. A company permit employees to work from home using company-owned laptops. Just like in COVID-19, many people were working from home, called the remote working. Which of the following competitive advantages? Important point, whenever you see one, you must mark it. Which of the following, you must mark it. Which of the following competitive advantage does the company most likely to obtain as a result of this decision? Which of these represents a competitive advantage? Integrity. Working from home doesn't ensure integrity. Maybe your system is on, your Zoom is on, but your camera is off and you are dancing. So where is integrity there? So you cannot ensure integrity, Shamsu, when you're working at home. Reliability. I can't rely when you're working from home. This issue is still questionable. Confidentiality, wrong. Confidentiality could be at stake when you work from home. Maybe the organizational data is at your home, so there is more probability that data might be used by someone who should not have access to it. Availability, yes, that's the point. Availability. Your data is available, you can access from your home and being able to work anytime for the organization. That makes C to be there. Availability is ensuring that organization information system are up and running so that employees and customers are able to access when it's needed. Which of the following is false statement about COVID 2019 framework? You just need to read to the extent that is given in your book. Do not need to overdo. A governance framework should reflect upon compliance standards. Your framework should be reflected on compliance standards, that we keep our data for 10 years. We have segregated our governance function and our management function. Unfortunately, in smaller organization, governance and management is the same. So this is true. Statement A is true. Governance and management activities and structures can be combined to support a holistic approach. Do you agree with that, Salman? No, you're absolutely right. This is wrong. COVID 2019 and even COVID 5, it says management and governance, they must be segregated. Management is responsible for day-to-day activities, ensuring the objectives are met, and governance is an oversight. Governance is an oversight function, so they must be segregated. This is false. This is correct. What about C? The COVID performance management model uses capability levels and maturity levels to measure. These capability and maturity levels, they were available in the prior version of GLIME. These capability maturity levels, they have been removed. They were there. So please excuse this option. You haven't read it. It is not in the textbook, but it was there previously. So this is the true statement, but no longer part of your text. Governance system design may be unique to a particular organization. That's what we say customization. Systems are highly customized. Governance systems are highly customized depending upon the type of business we are in. So this is true. So the statement that is false is B, and now we know. Next. So this is it. Governance and management must be distinct. Governance system and management system must be distinct. That's the idea here. Next. What is the first phase of data lifecycle? First phase of data lifecycle. Publication comes later. Maintenance comes later. Data capture, yes. C, this is the right option. Data capture, this is the first step right here. And then data maintenance, synthesis, usage, publication, archival, and destruction, purging. Next, C is the right option. Upon her arrival at a medical practice, a medical facility, a hospital most probably, a patient was given an electronic notepad. Through this notepad, she confirmed her contact and insurance information. Her information was already there. She just confirmed her number and her address, whatever, her contact and insurance information. She also completed her medical and family history. This way to capture the data is referred to as not utilization, no Vakas, it is signal reception. It is signal reception because the data was already stored. She just had to provide her contact number, her insurance information. The previous information was already available. She also completed her medical and family history. So this way to capture the data, because some information about her was already available. So this is data, is signal reception. The acquisition of data that have already been created by control system, and she just have to give her insurance details and the contact detail. It's just the utilization of the previously recorded data. Next, data synthesis can best be defined as, okay, now which of these options involve data synthesis? Data synthesis, evolution of data under both internal and external factors. That's the data capture stage. Creation of data values using inductive logic means arriving at some conclusions, synthesizing, analyzing. So creation of data values using inductive logic to determine some conclusion, to calculate net present value, actuarial models, risk modeling. So using logic, finally concluding something from the data. That's what you call the second stage of your data. That was data synthesis and evaluation. Data synthesis can be defined as creation of data values by using inductive logic. We didn't read this term, but the idea was same, using modeling, financial modeling, risk modeling, actuarial modeling to come to a conclusion. So this was data synthesis and evaluation. What about this process of analyzing data from different perspectives and summarizing it into useful information? That was the second stage in data processing. This was right here. That was data maintenance before it is made any use of it. Okay, so we got it. It's creation of creation of data value using inductive logic. Application of data to task of the enterprise. That is data usage. Next, risk modeling, actuarial modeling, modeling for investment decision and PV/IRR. You will study in section ECMA part 2 are all examples of not data usage. It's data analytics, analysis and synthesis. Exactly. That makes C to be the correct option. A new contract was signed between ABC and XYZ software, two parties, ABC and XYZ software. The contract had several contractual constraints regarding how data are used. Contractually, we are bound under the governance framework. We are under laws, under compliance laws, under contractual obligations, under government rules, even our own internal policies and procedures. We have to ensure that those rules and policies are followed. So the contract had several contractual constraints regarding how the data are used. Ensuring legalities are observed in this contract is the role of not senior management, it's the role of data governance. That's what we are studying. It's the role of data governance. Outsourced service providers are those entities that provide certain specialized services for you, like accounting, processing, like payroll processing, like medical transcription, or maybe your IT function can be outsourced also. So that's B. The issuance of monthly statements to customers is an example of which phase of the data lifecycle? Yes, absolutely, Ahmad. You're absolutely right. Answer. It's data publication. Correct. Which of the following phases refers to the end of the data lifecycle? The seventh phase, when the data copies are entirely destroyed from the enterprise. Data purging. Absolutely, all of you are right. That's data purging. That's the last seventh phase, data purging. Correct. Next. Which of the following is not a reason to have a formal record retention policy? Not a reason. Mind the word. This is called the question twister. Not. To meet the minimum holding periods imposed by law, this is one of the reasons, a valid reason why we hold records for a certain period of time. To protect sensitive information from unauthorized disclosure, that's why we keep it safe. This is a valid reason to retain. To lower the cost for an organization to keep it somewhere else, so that which of the following is not a reason to have a formal record retention policy? A formal record retention policy will also involve cost, because if you keep on piling files and files on the company's main servers, it will slow down your system. So the efficiency will fall. That means cost will go up. So to lower the cost for the organization, data is removed from servers and stored at a secure location. So this is a valid reason to have a retention policy. To enhance the useful of records, this is to enhance the usefulness of records. Once the data has reached the level of usage has been taken, now is the point to archive it. At that point, the maximum utility has been taken. So this is not the one of the reasons why we should have a record retention policy. D. Next, what is the minimum length of time text documents must be kept? In the US, of course, under the US laws, what would be the minimum length of time for which the text document must be kept? 7 years, absolutely right. But this is an important point. This is a very important point to note here. No suspicion of fraud. If there is a suspicion of fraud, then there is no limit. If there is a suspicion of fraud, Waqas, there is no limit. You have to produce the documents, whatever documents are required. No such limitation when a fraud is suspected. Next, C is the right option. Which of the following best defines COBIT? Best defines COBIT. The point. A set of guidelines to assist in implementing adequate controls over IT processes. This is a very good definition. In fact, this is what COBIT is all about. Control objective for information and related technology. It's basically a guideline, not a rule, not a law. It doesn't have the force of the law. It's just the guideline for you to assist in implementing adequate controls over the IT processes. That is the true statement. A control framework published by the Committee of Sponsoring Organization. No, it is not published by COSO. It is published by ISACA. We discussed it a little while ago. So this is not true. A set of guidelines intended to help shareholders understand the IT systems utilized by the management. Absolutely. Not for the shareholders. It's for the organization. A set of risks and responses to technology challenges. No, it does not contain any specific risk and responses. It provides you the guideline, and you will use that guideline to make the decision yourself. So that makes A to be the correct option. Okay, the Chief Operating Officer, COO, negotiated a significant sales transaction outside the ordinary course of entity's business with a corporation in a different industry. This is something questionable. He arranged a transaction outside the ordinary course of entity's business with a corporation in a different industry, something that is not usual. Let us see, there's a question mark. The Chief Operating Officer is a director of other entities. See, to make things even more suspicious, CEO is also, let's say, this is the company A, where this person is working as a CEO. And there's another company B, where this CEO is working as a director. So there is a related party transaction. So A and B, they conduct a transaction which is outside the normal sales. Something questionable, something not right. The terms and conditions of the undisclosed agreement differed from the entity's standard sales contract. See, something is wrong. Something is not right. Which of the following is the most likely inherent limitation of the company's internal controls? Clearly, management has overridden. Management has gone beyond what it should not have. There are certain limits defined. Management should not have gone beyond these controls. This is called management override. We will discuss this question relates to the topic we'll discuss in the next class in our internal controls and COSO model. So this is an example of when the management goes beyond the rules, it breaks down the rule. This is called management, not the breakdown. It is called the management override. When management overrides a control is set in place. When management breaks the control, this is called management override, and that makes B to be the correct option.